Thank you very much, Reagan. And now let's continue our discussion about all things of the consumer. Our next speaker is the founder, president, and CEO of the Center for Financial Services Innovation. They did us a big favor here. You saw Gallup come up with initial research yesterday. We're going to get initial research today. They have recently undertaken a national survey to shed light on the challenges Americans are facing. Jennifer will share the findings and take a deeper dive into what the financial health is and how it can be achieved. She picked her own walkout song. Ladies and gentlemen, Jennifer Tescher. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning. Pleased to be here. Thank you, Richard, for that introduction. I want to start this morning with a question. Now, it's not a new question. It's probably a question you've heard more than any other. And I bet you've already been asked this question many times this morning. But when I ask this question right now, I want you to really think about it. I want you to really think about what it means before you answer. Okay? You ready? Okay, here it goes. How are you? How are you today? This is sort of the standard question when we greet each other, but it's a bit of an odd conversation. Sometimes we just say fine or good and we move on. Other times people really tell you how they feel, and then we may regret having asked the question in the first place. Other times you ask this question and it goes round and round in circles, kind of like this. But there's a reason why I'm asking you these questions. And so let me come down to the audience and get a show of hands. How many of you worked out today? I know 11 of you were on the morning walk, but how many of you meant to work out today? Yeah. How many of you are definitely going to work out tomorrow? Yeah, there we go, right. Who saw those yummy, delicious brownies yesterday during the break around 2 in the exhibit hall? Did any of you notice those? How many of you were able to avoid those? Those look good. Hey, I'm impressed. I'm not sure I believe all of you. How many of you said, maybe I'll just have one, and then went on to eat 3? Who here is wearing a device that helps them track their fitness goals? Who can tell me how many steps they've taken so far this morning? Anybody? Yell it out. How many? 2,700. 1188. Anyone can top that? 7,000, I heard. Wow, impressive. Any of you thinking about getting the Apple Watch? Who here is looking forward to their next doctor's visit? Right. So we've gotten pretty sophisticated in the way that we think about and talk about health. In fact, the question, how are you, is a way more complicated question than it was, say, 50 years ago. Back then, health was defined as the absence of disease. And disease was defined as, well, the absence of health. We went to the doctor and we got a clean bill of health. But today, we talk about wellness, exercise, diet, the impact of our environment. We understand that our health is constantly in flux, and that it's something that is not a one-time result to be achieved, but something that we've got to think about every day of our lives. And that's why health and wellness has become a $500 billion industry. So now I'm going to ask you the same question, but this time, instead of thinking about your physical health, I want you to think about your financial health. How are you? Now, how do you begin to answer that question? What do you even think about? Maybe you ask yourself, I wonder if I got enough money set aside in case of an emergency. Or did I make the most recent payment on my life insurance policy? What's my credit score? Have I got enough saved for retirement? Am I going to be able to afford to send my kids to college? Do my daily choices and actions help prepare me for a rainy day? Do they help me pursue my dreams? I'm asking you these questions because the theme of this year's conference is the consumer agenda. And it turns out that financial health is actually what consumers want. And we haven't been doing a very good job of helping them get it. In 2013, American Express created a survey to understand how Americans define success. Because, for the last several decades, most of us have assumed that everyone just wants to get rich. But times are changing. And so in this survey that American Express conducted, respondents came up with 22 possible ways of defining success. Number 1 was getting healthy. Number 4 was knowing how to spend well. And getting rich, that thing we thought everyone wanted, that was 20th on the list. Now, it might be easy to assume that this is just a post-recession blip. After all, this was done in 2013. But the data shows that this shift from wealth to health has been happening gradually over the last 20 years or so, and it's still shifting. Earlier this year, Pew Charitable Trust asked Americans, if you had to choose between financial stability and climbing the income ladder, which would you choose? Which would you choose? Well, Americans overwhelmingly chose financial stability, and that was an uptick of 7% since the last time they asked this question in 2011. So what does that mean for us as an industry? Well, it means that we've been misinterpreting the American dream. Now, if financial health doesn't mean getting rich, then what does it mean? That's something that my organization, CFSI, has been thinking a lot about over the last few years. Because we know that people want to get healthier. They want to improve their financial health. But what does that journey look like? And how do you get there? We believe that financial health comes about when your daily systems help you build resilience and pursue opportunities. So we've created a little 3-question test to help you better understand this idea. Are you prepared for the unexpected? Are you able to pursue opportunities? And do your daily financial activities support both of these goals? We wanted to know how Americans would fare on this test. And so with support from American Express, the Ford Foundation, and the MetLife Foundation, we launched a major national survey to take a snapshot of the state of financial health in America. And I'm here today to share those results publicly for the first time. So how are we as a country? Unfortunately, the answer is not well. Nearly a third of American households say that if they had a sudden drop in income, they could only make ends meet for 3 months or less. What's even scarier is more than 20% have no idea how long they could last if they lost their job. More than a quarter of Americans report having saved less than $1,000 for retirement, and nearly half of these people are in their prime working years. In terms of day-to-day, 43% of Americans are struggling to pay their bills and repay their debts. Now, this is the big picture. But like physical health, financial health isn't a one-time result, a yes or no question. It's a continuum. And we found that Americans fall into one of 7 categories, 3 overall segments in terms of where they are in their financial health journey, based on the level of resilience they have, how well positioned they are to take advantage of opportunity, and the robustness of their day-to-day system. We found that 29% are vulnerable, 28% are coping, and 43% are healthy. Now, if 43% are healthy, that means that 57% are sick. That's 138 million Americans, and that's more than twice the number of people that the FDIC categorizes as on or underbanked. Financial health isn't about us versus them, it's about all of us. So it would be easy to assume that for the folks who are vulnerable and coping, that the problem is just more money. They need more money. It's an income problem. But the data shows that income doesn't begin to tell the whole story. Because among those vulnerable or coping, more than a third of them make over $60,000 a year, and 13% of them make over $100,000 a year. Similarly, in terms of the healthy segment, about a third of them make less than $60,000 a year. So income does matter, but it doesn't tell the whole story. What else helps to explain where Americans fall along this continuum? Well, our data shows that behavior matters, and two behaviors in particular had a very significant effect on whether or not folks were in the healthy segment: planning ahead and saving. Those who planned ahead for large, irregular expenses were 10 times more likely to be in the healthy segment. And those who had a planned savings habit were 4 times more likely to be in a healthy segment. Now, clearly, the products and services that you provide and the day-to-day interactions that you have with your customers play a huge role in their ability to get healthier. But the question is it your job to help make them healthier? Doctors ask themselves the same question. Is it my job to treat people who are sick? Or is it my job to help keep people healthy, keep people from getting sick? Now, no doctor thinks that his patient's health is his sole responsibility. Obviously, numerous factors go into health, including the patient's own behavior. But increasingly, doctors realize that by helping keep their patients healthy, they are reducing the likelihood and the severity of future illness. And that improves their own outcomes and drives patient satisfaction. Now, what if banks and financial institutions were seen as the doctors and hospitals of financial health? How would we partner with our customers so that their success was our success? How would we listen to them and talk with them about their financial health? These are big ideas, but if you were here yesterday, you heard that the times demand that we flip our thinking. The way I see it, you've got a choice. You can either see financial health as a problem and these statistics as sobering and scary, or you can see them as a solution. If you see them as a problem, you're probably sitting here listening to me thinking, how does this woman think I possibly have the time to think about my customers' financial health, what with the CFPB and other regulations and demands on my time at my institution? I just don't see how it's possible. But if you think about it from a different perspective, you quickly realize that financial health may just be the solution that your bank and this industry has been looking for. Because the competitive dynamic in banking is shifting dramatically. My friend Ron Shevlin has done some really good thinking about this in his new book, Smarter Bank. Once upon a time, banks competed on location and on service, and then on rates and fees. But in a 21st century, technology-driven, post-Dodd-Frank, post-CFPB world, banking needs a new competitive edge, and financial health represents a new basis for competition. If you don't figure out how to compete and give your customers what they want, you're quickly going to find yourself irrelevant. But those who figure it out first will absolutely own the customer relationship. And not just the 57% who are struggling, but the 43% who are healthy. Because there's room for improvement all along the spectrum. Customers want to get healthy, stay healthy, get healthier. And there are business opportunities up and down the continuum. But financial health isn't just a marketing slogan. It's not enough to wake up and say, okay, my bank is in the financial health business. I'm going to give all my customers a savings account and a checklist and send them on their way. Because the days of take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning are long gone. So what does it look like to compete in the financial health business? Well, the recent announcement from KeyBank is a good example. In partnership with Hello Wallet, KeyBank's going to be making available to its customers a single score to help them assess their financial wellness and a set of customized advice and tools to help them improve it. Ultimately, KeyBank will integrate these tools into the online and mobile banking channels. And importantly, they're going to enable customers to integrate data, financial data from other banks into the health score algorithm. Scores and advice can help customers and give customers the confidence and the control that they need to take charge of their own financial lives. But it also creates an incredibly valuable feedback loop for financial institutions, giving you the data and the insights that you need to design every product, every experience, every communication in ways that help your customers get healthier and help you improve your own bottom line. Now, all of you collect a range of data on financial and operational and risk outcomes. And I'm sure most of you are tracking customer satisfaction. But I bet few of you have any idea whether the interactions that you have with your customers every day are actually helping make them healthier. And remember, that's what they want. And what gets measured gets managed. When I exercise, and no, I did not get up this morning to exercise, I like to run. But my left hip doesn't like it when I run. And so I went to a new orthopedist last week, and he prescribed some physical therapy for me. His assistant hands me this brochure for a local chain of rehab facilities. And I notice at the bottom these words in bold. Athletico now measures patient outcomes and satisfaction using a third-party outcome system. At first I think to myself, well, this is just a glorified how satisfied are you system, a little like Net Promoter. But I went online and I read more about it, and what they're doing is pretty interesting and much deeper than that. With a partnership with an organization called Focus on Therapeutic Outcomes, Athletico is able to compare the efficiency and effectiveness of every treatment they give with clinics around the country, based on the type and severity of the injury and based on the demographic profile of the patient. They then use this data to set more realistic expectations with their patients about the likely duration of the treatment and the likely success of it, driving patient satisfaction. It's also enabling them to constantly improve their own effectiveness and efficiency. We don't have anything like this in banking, not even close. And so to that end, CFSI is launching a collaborative industry-wide effort to develop a set of financial health metrics that all of us can use to ensure that our businesses are meeting their highest purpose, that they're helping our customers achieve their best financial lives, live their best financial lives. Now, these are big and different ideas that I've been sharing with you today. They represent a paradigm shift. They require you to think differently about the business you're in and to think differently about how you'd measure success. But when you boil it down, it's pretty simple. It comes down to 3 questions. Are we helping customers prepare for the unexpected? Are we helping them pursue opportunities? And are the products and services we provide them each day supporting them in reaching these goals? If you can answer yes to these questions, then you are making good on the financial health promise. And so the next time you ask your customer, how are you today? They'll know that you mean it. Thank you very much.
Jennifer, thank you very much. Appreciate you introducing the study to the audience at CBA Live. A couple questions for you. Did you measure consumers of all ages?
We measured a nationally representative sample of the country, all ages, all incomes, everything, a demographic profile that represents the demographics of the country.
So it's not just a millennial thing?
It's not just a millennial thing.
So you said the vast majority wanted financial stability, not wealth. How much did the recession influence this outcome, do you believe?
Well, that would be the sort of obvious assumption, but all of the data that we have seen, not just from our study, but from others, suggest that this trend, this shift towards health has been happening gradually over the last 2 decades. And I don't think we're just seeing it in finance. We're seeing it in how we think about the environment, how we think about our bodies. I see it as a much larger cultural shift that I think has significant implications for the financial services industry.
And do you think that cultural shift is permanent, or do you think this is just a blip until the economy fully recovers?
You know, maybe we could have called this a blip 2 years post, 3 years post. We're now quite a number of years post. And while certainly the economy isn't where it was before, I think there are many who believe that we have a series of structural challenges and that it isn't going to be like it was before. So no, I don't think this is a blip. I would say something else, though. If you think about the Great Depression, that was such a significant event that it absolutely changed the perspective and the outlook of the succeeding generation. And so I don't think this is that different, but it's a generational change. This isn't going to, 5 years from now, all of a sudden reverse itself.
So it'll go on for generations coming up and learning from their parents and so forth.
I believe so.
Jennifer, our industry, colleges, governments have spent a lot of money on financial literacy. In your estimation, does financial literacy really work, and what is the most effective tool?
I'm so glad you asked me that question. And we did not plan this, so I really am glad you asked me that question. We've spent a lot of time thinking about this issue. And I think what I would say is I'm more interested in what people do than what they know. Right? We all know we shouldn't eat that brownie yesterday, but we did. We all know we should exercise, but we don't. We all know we should go the speed limit, but we don't always. We all know it's important to save. Every single one of us in this country knows that saving is good, but it's hard, and we don't always do what we know we should do. So I think knowing is good, doing is better. All of the studies I've seen suggest that financial literacy in its most classic form, sitting someone in a class and teaching them how to budget, might improve knowledge gain. It absolutely does not change what they do, and that's what we're most interested in.
So when you started the study, you had some preconceived notions, I'm sure. You've been in banking industry for a while now. What was your biggest takeaway? We
originally thought that these 3 indicators of financial health, resilience, opportunity, and your day-to-day system, we weren't sure how they would interact with each other. And what the study found is that if you're healthy, you're good on all 3. And if you're not healthy, you're not good on all 3. We thought there might be some mixing and matching, but it's kind of an all-or-nothing package.
And usually, the financial advisors tell you to have 6 months' worth of expenses saved up. You were showing the stats about 3 months. What do you think the ideal number is based upon this study?
I don't think this study can answer the question of what is the ideal. I actually think that the work we're going to be doing, and I hope you all will join us to develop a set of financial health metrics, will require us to answer some of those questions. What are some norms and rules of thumb that consumers can use and that we can advise them on? I actually think that we've made financial services very complicated. What's your risk tolerance? What's your time horizon? What are your goals? And there's going to be a different answer for everyone. That's true, but we should have a national opinion about, gee, how much emergency savings should I have on hand? That's something that should be easy for us to answer, and I don't think there's collective wisdom about it yet.
I think what I have deduced from your presentation is we have to go back to basics. we have to start at the very lower level and build people's reserves up first before we start thinking aspirational?
Yes and no. I actually want to challenge all of you. There's a lot of work to do to help consumers take charge of their financial lives, but I actually think what you need to do is think differently about the business you're in. You're not in the banking business. No one wakes up in the morning and says, I need a new checking account today. Or, gee, let me compare checking accounts. Maybe I want to switch today for no reason. They're thinking about, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to earn a living? How am I going to save? How am I going to put my kids to college? They're thinking about the financial needs they have right now and maybe tomorrow. If you're not part of the solution for people, if you're not the first thing they think about when they think about how to answer those questions, you're not going to be here 20 years from now.
Very interesting. And you gave us a lot of information today. How do we access this information?
Thank you, Richard,
I did
for
prepare
reminding
for that
me. Thank
you.
So the report is available online. I would encourage you to take out your cameras right now and just take a quick picture of this slide. I'd encourage you to download it, share it with your friends. This is just the beginning. This is a treasure trove of data. We've released quite a bit today, and there will be far more to come in the future. So thank you so much for having me.
Jennifer, thank you. Appreciate it.